G'day, welcome to the Garden Gurus. I'm Trevor Cochrane. We've got another fantastic episode for you, packed full of down-to-earth gardening advice today. Now, listen, if you want to know more about gardening in any way, this is the best way to do it, is to see the show. But if you want to share some tips and hints along the way, become a friend on Facebook at the same time. You know, this program is all about sharing ideas, but also actually getting some feedback from you too, and we'd love to hear it. Here's what's coming up on today's show. This week on the Garden Gurus, Bonnie upcycles this old fish tank into a new home for these succulents. Melissa shares how to keep your greenhouse cool during the summer months. And Nigel is adding compost to soil in a new, innovative way.
Digging around. Dig in the ground. I got my spade, I got my hoe, I got my rake, and I'm ready to go.
Terrariums have been a fascination of mine over the years, and I've slowly built up my own little collection. And they can be a really fun way to bring a little bit of greenery inside the house. So let me show you how you can create a magical miniature garden. One of the first things you're going to be needing is a container, and I'm using this old fish bowl, which is a really good option because it allows me to use a few different succulents and cacti. And one of the biggest things when you're building your terrarium is making sure you get the right layers. The first step is to use activated charcoal. Now what this does, it keeps the overall hygiene of the plants and the soil in tip-top shape, and it will help prevent any root rot. So when you're applying this to your container, you only need to add about an inch worth to the bottom of the pot. So I'm going to be adding about an inch worth of soil on top of the charcoal. Depending on the size and the depth of your container, the amount of soil you need might vary, but for something about this size, an inch is enough. So now we can get to the fun part, planting. Now that you've got your plants positioned, and if you're pretty happy with how they're looking, you can add a little bit more soil to the terrarium. That way you can cover any roots that might be exposed. Now that you're happy with the amount of soil that's in there and all the roots are nicely covered, you can take some garden pebbles or even smaller stones, and you can decorate the top of your terrarium with these, and it will really bring your little container to life. When caring for terrariums, it can become a little bit scary when we think about watering, but it's a lot easier than what you might think. With succulents, they don't require too much, so all we need to do is use a mister or a little watering can just to get the roots moist enough but not saturated. And when it comes to feeding, they don't like a lot of nitrogen, so using a slow-release fertiliser is really good, but I won't need to worry about feeding at the moment thanks to the Osmocote Professional Cacti and Succulent Mix, because it has a slow-release fertiliser already in there. Keep your terrarium in a nice warm spot where it's exposed to some natural light. And with your terrariums, you don't have to use an old fish bowl. You can use any item. You can use wine glasses or even old jars. So if you come up with some really creative ideas, we'd love to see photos, so you can send them through to our Facebook page.
I love a bit of digging, which is a good job because there's plenty of it in landscaping, but it can get a bit tedious and tiring with the shovel, especially in the heavier soils and especially at my age, which is why I avoid it when I can and use a machine. The front hoe attachment for the Kanga packs a mean punch and is perfect for digging trenches for services, drainage and footings, and holes for large trees, pits, or just general earth moving. You can get 150mm and 300mm wide buckets and dig down to about 700mm. You've got the power to dig deep, reach high, swing left and right, and reposition easily, all from the operator console, which has a complete 360-degree view. It's a beautiful thing, and it's my kind of action. The tiger teeth design here comes as a standard feature and can handle the toughest of digging conditions. These bird of paradise are a really popular plant all over Australia, and you can see why. They get these amazingly striking flowers, and they really are a great foliage plant. Just a couple of tips on this flower up here. Right, you can see there's some dead petals there. You can just pull those off rather than cut the whole flower off and still get some life out of the flower. But once they die off, And likewise with the leaves, you need to get down low and remove the old flower spikes. Now, the botanical name for this is Strelitzia reginae. Over here, we have its big brother, Strelitzia nicolai, often confused with the banana plant. But if you look closely, you can see there are no bananas on this, not edible, purely ornamental. They both come from South Africa. Now, the flowers on this one, again, are spectacular, darker, but you'll often see birds getting in there and getting onto the water and having a little cheeky drink on a hot day. Again, you keep these clean and clear of all dead foliage and dead flowers, and they are spectacular, but they can get big, so look out where you plant them. Cycads, conifers and ferns are some of the oldest plant forms on the planet. They've been around since the dinosaurs. In fact, they used to munch on these and didn't do them any harm. In fact, the problem they had was the meteorite, but that's another story. They're amazing plants, start their life off as a spore, produce leaves, and then as those leaves die off and harden, many of them form a trunk. And you can see one right there, and that takes years, decades in fact, and some of them even centuries. Now, the sort of conditions they like generally are shady, dappled light. Some will take full sun, Cyathea cooperi, but what they don't like is wind. Good situation here under the shade cloth, and they don't mind a bit of moisture. And a good tip for you when you're watering, give them a bit of moisture just up around the leaves here, and in the top of the trunk like that. Beautiful. And let that trickle down there. See that? Lovely stuff. Otherwise, pretty easy to look after. Sensational.
Okay, it's that time of the year again. You're starting to hand water the garden. And whether it's new plants being put into the garden or filling the watering can up, you've probably had happen what I've had happen. Leaky fittings, wasting water, getting you wet. It's just not right. Surely there's technology available today that has stopped this happening, right? Surely. Well, the good news is there really is. Holman have been incredibly good at reimagining how we use day-to-day products in the garden, reinventing them, and then, through innovation, creating improved versions. And there's no better example than this. This is the grip and lock technology. Now, there's all sorts of benefits with this one. Most importantly, the longer tail and sharper barb means that you will not have any leaks at all. There's no hose blow-offs. This is a great way to save water, and it lasts forever. There's this thing called a compression ring with super sharp teeth that delivers the ultimate join, hanging onto the hose, guaranteeing it'll never blow off, no matter what pressure you have at home. Most importantly, this means at the point of joining the tap or connecting the watering gun, there are no leaks. Now, the fittings come in plastic and brass, which is absolutely fantastic. The brass will last for years and years. And then there's the multifunction gun. Multifunction hose guns with thumb control deliver the best possible watering experience. They have the key function settings, the rose for soft watering, the jet for jetting, the flat spray for flat spraying, and the mister, yes, you know where this is going, right? But the bubble function, well, that's something completely unique to Holman. In fact, they put a patent on it, the first in the world to bubble. Probably my favourite innovation that comes with this gun of all is one that affects us all, whether it be cold water freezing your joints and stopping you being able to turn the gun on and off, or if you've got arthritis in your fingers and they don't move too well. It's this simple little thumb control. It's just a simple push up and you're on. And then, if you want to turn it off, pull it back, it's that easy. With the growing season on us and water being more precious than ever, make sure you fix any leaking fittings, replacing them with superior technology. Technology that saves water, distributes water appropriately to plants the way they need it, and with the ease of thumb control. If you want fittings that are really going to last, technology that really does make a difference when it comes to saving water, then you've got to check out this Holman grip and lock system. It really is fantastic. And whilst you're there, make sure you grab yourself one of these multifunction guns. They are absolutely brilliant. There is a function for every purpose in the garden. You know, watering has never been so much fun.
Normally when you think of rust, it's a concern, like a rusty old car or roof, and that's a nasty business that's going to cost you. But I've got something for you today, folks, that shows rust as a thing of beauty with its rich earthy tones. Now, when I say rich, I don't mean you have to be rich to get your hands on this gear. It's cost-effective, easy to install, and looks great in the garden. The White's OxyShield range is extensive and includes the garden edging, which goes in quite quickly and works for straight lines and curves due to its flexibility, and is ideal for lawns, garden beds and paths. They also do a range of these feature screen panels with these beautiful laser cut designs that are perfect for transforming a plain fence or wall, or just basically anywhere that you want a feature wall. There are a few new laser cut designs available: rainforest, galaxy spirals and leaves in all sorts of shapes and sizes. Installation is straightforward. Mark a level line and then measure the position of the screws to match the holes at the back of the frame. The frames hang much the same as a picture. Slide the panels carefully onto the screws, then check the level to ensure they all line up. A little bit of fine tuning with a block of timber and a hammer will ensure perfection. The rust effect occurs due to oxidization of a special coating on the surface of the metal. It won't rust all the way through. Now that process happens over time and it gradually gets darker due to the elements. Now if you want to speed that up, you can wipe the screens with a damp cloth or use the hose, get some water on there and see it transform right in front of your eyes, just like magic. I'm over here in Perth where my good mate Dazza and his team of professional landscapers have just put down this new lawn, and what a beautiful job it is. But it's interesting, over here, once the lawn's down, they run the plate compactor over it to keep the lawn in firm contact with the soil below. Where I am in Sydney, we use a water-filled roller. The point is, when you're laying new lawn, make sure, once it's down, that it's in firm contact with the soil below and keep the water up to it.
Now, planting up your verge has become one of the biggest trends around the neighbourhood these days, but you have to remember what a verge is for. This is all about a service corridor, making sure all the essential services that go onto your property can actually get through. Now, things like water connections, your stormwater, your sewage, your electricity, that all have pathways through to your property. So knowing where they are and making sure that you don't go and damage them is very important. Now, if you plant yours up, just remember that occasionally these services are going to have to be accessed, which might mean that your precious garden gets dug up. And speaking of plantings, when you're thinking about putting in trees and shrubs, make sure you select them very carefully. The last thing you want them doing is damaging these vital services. It could cost an absolute packet. Dial Before You Dig will give you a map of where the main service cables and pipes are on your property. That means that you can then plant, but away from them. Plant selection is always important. Huge trees on your verge isn't always the best idea. If the tree's roots wrap around a pipe like this and break them, well, the roots have to be cut away, more than likely killing your favourite tree. It doesn't matter where you dig on your property, it's always vitally important you understand what's under your feet. It doesn't matter whether you're digging with a shovel or using the kanga to lay a trench down. You have to be very careful, and your first stop should always be this organisation, Dial Before You Dig. Give them a call a couple of days before you start the project. Now, if you're wondering what tree or shrub you should be planting out on the verge, there's a couple of great resources out there. Your local council is one, and of course service providers also have some sensational resources when it comes to planting plants out on the verge. Now, if you're worried about it costing you money to contact Dial Before You Dig, here's the good news. It's totally free. So the only thing it's going to cost you is a little bit of time in planning. But if you invest, it'll save you damaging any of the services that supply, well, what are essential services to your property. Most importantly, it'll just make sure that the job runs smoothly. So make sure you call this number. Make sure you dial before you dig.
We often think of greenhouses as warm, cosy places where plants can grow and thrive through the cooler months. But with the right setup, a greenhouse can provide perfect summer conditions too, so you can enjoy greenhouse growing all year round. Sproutwell greenhouses are designed so that your plants can flourish in every season, and they cater for gardeners living and growing in a whole range of different climates to ensure that you can continue to grow all of your favourite flowering and fruiting beauties throughout the hotter months. Now that we're moving into summer, our focus shifts to what we can do to keep the greenhouse cool and avoid heat stress on our plants. The first thing to think about is a shade system. So this greenhouse is fitted with an over-the-top shading system, which has proven to be more effective than an internal one. So this woven aluminium fabric is designed to reflect the sun, so the heat can't penetrate through the cloth and warm up the greenhouse. In fact, it reduces internal temperatures by up to 10 to 12 degrees. The other key factor is ventilation. Most greenhouses have the option of doors at each end that can be opened in hot weather. Greenhouses can also be fitted with louvers in the side walls, a misting system and manual and automated roof vents to help cool the space. So no matter how hot it gets, your Sproutwell greenhouse provides the perfect growing conditions for happy little plants.
Well, what a fabulous lemon tree here in this courtyard garden. And here's a few tips if you want to grow citrus. Full sun in a reliably moist, fertile, well-drained soil, and you can't go wrong. Just have a look at these fruits. Imagine the energy needed to put on fruit of that size and power and beauty over the whole tree. So don't back off with your nutrients and your fertilising in March and September. Here, we're in a raised bed, so drainage, we've got irrigation, we've got water, wash guard. The other thing with citrus, they generally don't like root competition, but I suspect the fibromyliads around the base aren't going to trouble it. Now, the lemons themselves, quite tart to taste, good in the fruit salads, but for me, slice it up and stick it in a nice stiff G&T.
Pruning our roses during winter is an absolute given. It encourages a lovely flush of growth and a beautiful display of flowers. But another prune during summer will keep our roses under control and give us an autumn flush that'll look spectacular. Stay tuned for more gardening tips after.
Greenhouses have been part of our gardening culture for centuries, so they provided a place for plant enthusiasts and collectors to grow rare and exotic plants from far-flung places around the world, and they gave them the flexibility to enjoy plants year-round. In the modern garden, a greenhouse still plays a similar role. It allows you to extend your growing season and grow a larger variety of plants than your climate would typically allow. Everything from cool climate veggies to tropical pineapples. So get a greenhouse and get growing.
Walking around the gardens here at Araluen, you see so many beautiful, healthy plants, and the way they've designed the beds is inspirational. Imagine the maintenance here. That's why they have a full-time staff taking care of business. Healthy plants start with a healthy soil, which is one of the priorities here. They use a combination of composting and spreading organic matter over the soil, as well as the right fertilisers and sea salt for all-round plant health and vigour. And they've given me permission to do some work of my own. Now, never mind permission. Wait till they get the invoice. Remember, ruck services don't come cheap. Just ask Trev. Sea salt liquid compost is new to the range and makes soil improvement work really easy. There's no shoveling, digging or lifting required. You just mix it in the watering can and start applying where it's needed, on the soil. The liquid compost helps break down clay soils, improving soil structure, aeration and drainage, and improves moisture and nutrient retention, particularly important in sandy soils. Fish have been used for centuries for soil improvements. These days, it comes as a highly concentrated emulsion that's packed full of nutrients that are released after being digested by beneficial microbes, earthworms, and beneficial fungi. And all of this activity is just fantastic for your soil. And don't be surprised if your swimming improves too. The wonders of sea salt have been used for decades now to improve overall plant health and reduce stresses from heat, drought, frost, pests and diseases. And it's excellent for root development. It's full of algenic compounds and nutrients, and it's great for feeding and encouraging beneficial microbes. That's in here too. The garden beds that I've worked on today here will be beside themselves when they get their laughing gear around this stuff. Now this works really well too when you're preparing new beds and also for existing beds like these, where you should apply every 3 to 6 months, and for really poor soils, apply every 2 weeks until the soil improves.
I just love this time of the year in the garden. It's just so beautiful, and there are so many things to see and do right now that'll leave you with just, well, a beautiful looking garden right through the summer months. The good news is we're back next week and we'll show you those things. We'll share some terrific tips, new plants, and some products that just make gardening success so much easier. I'm Trevor Cochrane. We'll see you again soon for the Garden Gurus. Hello, welcome to the Garden Gurus. I'm Trevor Cochrane. We've got another brilliant program for you, packed full of down-to-earth local gardening advice and some real inspiration this week. Here's what's coming up on today's show. We all know Nigel is a grassman, and this week he shares how to repair a damaged lawn.
It's at this stage that many go into a state of shock because your lawn looks half dead. But don't panic. Follow up immediately with fertilising and regular watering, and your lawn will soon recover.
And we'll look at a pain-free way of watering your garden.
Now's a great time to start dry-proofing your garden coming into the warmer months. And with a little bit of TLC, your plants can make the most of every drop of water.
Dig, 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 digging around. Dig, 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 digging the ground. I got my spade, I got my hoe, I got my rake, and I'm ready to go.
There's something really appealing about having a greenhouse in the backyard and being able to grow plants all year round no matter what the conditions. But how do you know which greenhouse to get depending on your lifestyle and growing needs? Start by coming to a place like this, Victoria's largest greenhouse display centre, where you can explore Sproutwell greenhouses in every shape, size and colour, with options for beginners, hobbyists and die-hard gardeners. So Clay, if I'm looking for a greenhouse, why would I come to a place like this?
The reason you come here is you get to touch and feel the product, and you can also see the differences between the range of greenhouses that we offer. So they look very similar on the internet, but a lot different in the flesh.
So what are the advantages of having a greenhouse at home?
So the main advantage is that you get to grow your own food organically. So you know where your food's coming from, it's pesticide free, it's organic. Even your children, if you've got any, they can get involved in the whole process and get an understanding of where their food comes from.
So what sort of questions do you ask if someone comes in here to find the right greenhouse for them?
Yeah, well the main points you want to get down to is what are they using it for, where are they siting it, is it in a residential backyard, is it in an open area, what are the wind ratings, because a lot of our greenhouses have high wind tolerances, so it comes down to budget as well a little bit. So there's generally a greenhouse that will fit every customer's needs.
Now I've noticed when I've been walking around that some of them are different temperatures. Why is that?
They certainly are, and look, that comes down to whether it's glass used as the cladding, whether it's polycarbonate, or the polycarbonate is a twin wall UV stabilised polycarbonate. And some of our greenhouses also have shading systems. So those shading systems are going to prevent a lot of the excess heat and keep your plants growing through the warmer summer months.
So that means you can grow all year round?
Yep, winter, summer, the whole lot.
Visiting a place like this with everything in one spot definitely gives you the full experience of being able to see, touch and feel which greenhouse is right for you. If you want to garden on a shoestring or grow on a smaller scale, you'll also find everything from small freestanding greenhouses to compact gardening ideas. Beyond greenhouses, you'll also find lots of quirky garden art and sculptures to pretty up your outdoor space, plus heaps of Christmas gift ideas.
Well, it's a big day on site today. I'm going to be getting rid of the old footpath, making way for a brand spanker. Now, you could do this with the jackhammer or the bar, but I'm going a much easier way and much quicker with the machine. I don't even need to mention how labour-intensive and slow this kind of work is when done by hand with damo saws, jackhammers and sledgehammers. Rock breakers are definitely the way to go if you've got a bit to do. Kanga use Montebert hydraulic breakers that combine power and versatility. Whether you're breaking rock or concrete or are excavating, these hydraulic breakers guarantee optimum performance for all of your projects. Robustness, power and adaptability are the key features of the Silver Clip product range, which will enable you to carry out several jobs easily with a single operator and a single machine on the construction site. These are great for breaking up pavements, footpaths, driveways. In fact, they're perfect for any kind of internal or external demolition. For example, busting up old tiles you can do with the spade bit. In fact, you can do any kind of demolition with this in the building game. If I wanted to, I could take out these walls here. Have a look at this. Up she goes, nice and high. Bang, out goes the wall. But I'm not going to, because we want to keep the walls here. So there you go, and there you have it. That's rock breaking with Ruck and Kanga. Another tool to add to Kanga's Swiss Army knife of attachments.
If your dogs go crazy for blood and bone whenever you apply it into the garden, you might like to try the ideal substitute. It's full-fat soybean meal. It's got a high nitrogen content, is great for the garden, and the crazy dogs will leave it alone. Stay tuned for more great gardening tips after.
At this time of year, lawns are really getting into their growth stride, so it's perfect for any maintenance tasks because there's plenty of time ahead in the growing season. Thatch is something that many lawns get over time. It's a build-up of vegetative matter, lawn clippings and the like, that sits just under the soil's surface, making the lawn spongy, and mowing becomes difficult and uneven, and the thatch layer blocks air, water and nutrients from getting into the soil, resulting in a poor soil and a poor lawn. But it's not that hard to fix, and now is a good time to do it. You can hire a scarifying machine which removes the thatch, and then you rake it all up, and there'll be a lot to get rid of. It's at this stage that many go into a state of shock because your lawn looks half dead. But don't panic. Follow up immediately with fertilising and regular watering, and your lawn will soon recover. But the timing is really important. It's got to be right. Late spring, early summer, and the soil temperature has to be 15 degrees or more. You can buy a soil thermometer if you need to. Another way of doing this is to mow really low and gather up all the dead nasties in the catcher. Compacted areas caused by heavy use and wear and tear will also block air, water and nutrients from entering the soil. Your lawn will die off and the weeds will set in. Now this can be fixed by aerating. Small areas like this, you can use a garden fork, or you can hire a coring machine. Rake up all the cores and then follow up with a sandy top dressing mix. And if it's the right time of year, fertilise and water. What your lawn loves to keep it lush, green and healthy, with the inner strength, power and mental focus to fight off pests and diseases, and all-round lawn acumen, is a balance of slow and quick release nutrients and elements, organics, beneficial soil microbes, and the wonders of seaweed with all its health benefits and root stimulation. As luck would have it, all of those beauties are contained in this bag, and it even comes with instructions. For best results, apply at the beginning of spring, every 6 weeks, right through to the end of autumn. And remember, always water in immediately after application.
I love nothing more than a real Christmas tree, but rather than a cut tree which gets used just once, why not get your hands on a living Christmas tree and get years of enjoyment? The dwarf form of the Alberta spruce is a classic choice, with neat, tightly packed evergreen foliage and a lovely conical shape that creates a decorative showpiece through the festive season. You can pot up a living Christmas tree and bring it inside for a short period during the festive season, then pop it outdoors until the following year. Or you can plant one straight into the garden and get decades of pleasure out of it.
This is a beautiful plant here. It's Acanthus mollis, or the oyster plant, and it's just starting to do its thing, putting on these beautiful and spectacular flowers, which is where it gets the name the oyster plant, because the flowers sort of resemble an oyster. And these will get up right above the foliage and look absolutely spectacular. And then of course you get all these lovely leaves. They're generally a pretty good shade plant, but here it's growing in full sun and still looking pretty good. Little bit of caterpillar damage on the leaves, but that's easily fixed. They like a fertile, moist, well-drained soil, and just keep up the fertilizer to maintain the health and vigor in the leaves and help this incredible floral display. More tips.
Take a walk around your garden at this time of year and you'll see plants gearing up to flower and fruit and a general frenzy of growth and activity. Just check out these maples, they've just burst into full growth. This is one of the weeping dissected forms of Japanese maple, and these trees were imported in 1928 from Japan, so they're near on 100 years old. And not only do they have this fiery coppery red growth, but if you look inside the canopy, they've actually been pruned so that the canopy is not just a statement in the garden, it's actually a work of art. Viburnums also make a big splash in spring gardens, with striking, often perfumed blooms in shades of pure white and cream to lovely pinky tones. And gorgeous rhododendrons and azaleas paint the landscape at every level, from towering trees to small shrubs, all smothered in flowers. This season, we've talked a lot about the value of using a plant food that doesn't just feed your plants, it also takes care of your soils. So here's a nice little recap for you on how to get the best out of your garden in 2 easy steps. First, get some Treforte M all-purpose fertiliser into the soil to promote healthy, vigorous growth and loads of flowers and fruit. This stuff doesn't just feed your plants, it also contains millions of beneficial microbes, so it helps to create healthy soil and the perfect environment for plant growth. Secondly, get your hands on a bottle of this stuff, Treforte liquid plant food. It's the icing on top of the cake, so it works in conjunction with the granular food to get the best out of your plants. So the liquid works by triggering the plant to produce more organic food using energy from the sun. The organic food is then transported down to the roots, where it provides food for the beneficial microbes. And in exchange, the microbes provide the plants with vital nutrients. In short, it ensures that the microbial populations thrive, resulting in healthier, hardier plants, fruits and veggies. Treforte liquid plant food becomes rain-fast just 2 hours after application, and it forms an almost invisible gel that retains nutrients in the soil for up to 3 months. So apply this to your garden every season and your plants and soils will love you for it.
Well, I love sharing great ideas with you, and I do travel the world a lot. At the moment, I'm on assignment with the Explore TV crew, and we're on a stunning cruise ship. This is the Viking Orion. It's a new ship. Viking have won the best cruise ships in the world 3 years running, and no wonder. Their attention to detail is amazing. And of course, they have those Scandinavian, Nordic influences. This is a terrific solution to an area under a staircase, something we could all do at home. So they've used different coloured mosses, all laid out, along with different aggregates, stone and pebbles, and the effect is absolutely sensational. And these are growing, so they'll continue to fill out. They're lovely and colourful. It requires little to no maintenance, just the occasional bit of water. And I thought it was such a great idea, I'd share it with you.
How many times have you been out and watered your garden and then scratched the surface of the soil to find that it's completely dry underneath? So the water hasn't absorbed and gotten right down to the root zone of your plants. So it's a really common problem, and it's not something that we want coming into summer. The water is pooled or run off the surface, a sure sign that the water has become hydrophobic or water repellent. meaning the water can't soak into your soil or potting mix properly. Thankfully, the problem is easy to fix. Get your hands on a bottle of Scott's Every Drop Soil Wetter. You simply apply it to the soil around your plants and watch your garden beds transform. It increases water absorption by 50%. And look, now water can penetrate deep down to the root zone, where the plants need it most. The better hydrated the soil, the stronger and deeper the roots will be, and watering, rainfall and liquid feeding will be more effective. If you're looking to make the most of water in your garden and reduce the time you spend watering, then you're also going to want to get your hands on a tub of Every Drop water storing crystals. You mix them through your soils and potting mix, and when water is applied, they swell up to 100 times their own weight in water. So they're like little reservoirs of moisture that sit in the soil and release water back to the plant's roots when it's dry. They allow soils to retain more water for longer, which increases the time between watering. I'm often asked, how do you get water storing crystals into the potting mix if your plant's already potted? Well, here's a tip for you. Just get your hands on a knitting needle or a pencil and simply poke some holes in and around the root zone of your plants. Sprinkle some crystals into each hole and then cover them up with potting mix. Just don't be too heavy-handed with the crystals or they'll spew back out the top when you water it. Now's a great time to start dry-proofing your garden coming into the warmer months. And with a little bit of TLC, your plants can make the most of every drop of water.
I'm sure all of you watching are very familiar with the frangipani tree, but just in case there's some of you who aren't, here's one here. Now that's the Plumeria genus. This one here is the native frangipani, Hymenasporum flavum. And really it has no connection with Plumeria whatsoever, except I suspect it gets the common name because of these beautiful perfumed flowers that are on the tree in spring. They start off as a creamy white and then mature into this beautiful yellow. Lovely glossy leaves, native to Queensland and New South Wales. Get up to about 6 to 8 metres, a wonderful specimen tree. They like a bit of drainage and they love reliable moisture. More tips. Morea are a fantastic plant, really good for hedging. They can be used for topiary and even a small tree, and they're really versatile. They'll grow in a range of soils from light shade right through to full sun, and here they've got them as a standard. Long, straight trunk and then all the action at the top here, and I suspect the end game could be one of two things. They could be bald, and you'd have a series of those funky balls here, or they could be formed as a pleached hedge, which means underneath is all clear, and at the top here, for privacy, you're going to have a hedge. And that means that underneath, you could do some funky underplanting too. Now, I just noticed a little bit of yellowing on the leaves, but action has already been taken with cow manure and organic matter and then a mulch over the top, and I'd probably add to that some slow-release fertiliser.
Cloud Hill in Victoria's Dandenong Ranges is the pinnacle of great garden design, and it's a labour of love for owner Jeremy Francis, who's been growing and nurturing this magnificent landscape for over 25 years. Of course, the beauty of a garden is that it grows and changes throughout the year, but also throughout the ages, and with time comes some exciting maintenance challenges. It must have been amazing for you to watch this garden grow and develop over the years.
Oh, it's been an absolute joy. And watching it over the first few years, we started off with so many historic plants, and we've been watching it evolve and change and tweaking it year by year ever since 1992 now, so for a lot of years.
And how do you find working with something that's growing and living and changing all the time?
It always surprises you, of course. There's certain plants we absolutely rely on. There are other plants we have to figure out year by how well they grow, others by watching them disappear as well. I mean, it's absolutely fulfilling, and that's the beauty of gardening.
And do you find that from a maintenance standpoint, it can be quite challenging when you're dealing with a garden that you've owned for so long?
There are jobs that crop up every few years, and of course hedges grow year by year, and occasionally they need renovation. Major trees suddenly become a problem. They develop an awful disease and have to be removed, and you're left with this huge hole, which is pretty discouraging for a few weeks, but after a while it becomes an opportunity as well to rethink that entire section of the garden.
And what about the hedges? Because they obviously grow and develop.
We planted many of the hedges over the first 2 or 3 years, and the hornbeam hedge, for instance, went in 1992, so our very first winter. It grew up into the hedge we wanted, about 2 metres high by about ½ a metre across within about 2 years, 3 years. After 25 years, you end up with a hedge which is way too big. It actually became a health and safety issue for whoever was clipping the top of the hedge. It grew past our tripod ladder. We took to it with a chainsaw last winter.
And it's responded really well.
It just burst out of the old wood that first spring, so this is 12 months ago now, and you can see that growth just bursting away.
Is there a spot in the garden that you just love to be?
Well, it depends on the season. So we have the hedges divide the entire garden into about 25 compartments, and so there's compartments for each season. So I'm looking at whatever's looking at its best. There's always something. In winter, of course, it goes back to the architecture, the overall architecture. So that's why we've gone to a lot of trouble putting in good, strong bones.
Now, this garden, I imagine, is a little bit like a child for you. You've raised it, you've grown it, you've nurtured it. How does it make you feel now when you see the garden?
I think the important thing with a garden like this is to wander around and be surprised by the garden. And I spend a lot of time walking around here at 5 and 6 and 7 o'clock at night, thinking about what happens over the next week, the next month, the next 6 months.
There's nothing quite like a fire pit, and if you're wondering about smoke coming up from it, well, certainly if you're in a built-up neighbourhood, you're not going to be able to do it. But if you've got a little bit of room, and I do in my garden, the smoke's actually very good for many of the plants. In fact, it triggers flowering, seed production, and also it's taken in. The carbon's actually taken into plants, and that's what we've got to remember when it comes to climate change. The more plants we have, of course, the healthier the air is that we breathe. Now, that's all we've got for you this week on The Garden Gurus. Next week, we're back with some brilliant, down-to-earth gardening advice. I'm Trevor Cochrane. We'll see you then.